This is Julie.
Hey, calendar, what's my morning like?
Julie's about to have a long day.
At 9 a.m., soccer carpool. 9:10, purchase birthday card. 9:05, dry cleaning.
Did you just go backwards?
I'm sorry, I can't fit that question into your schedule. 9:15, cry for a little bit.
For days that won't end, let Schwann's help. With Schwann's, you can get delicious meals that go from freezer to table in minutes, not hours. Ordered, delivered, done. That's homemade easy. Visit today at schwanns.com.
And now, a great moment in furniture history. One summer in the early 90s, the Bob behind Bob's Discount Furniture did something that would send shockwaves throughout the furniture business. He eliminated haggling and ended the unfair and insidious practice of artificially jacking up prices only to throw a phony sale. What remains unanswered is why he would end such a lucrative scheme.
It was the right thing to do.
It was the right thing to do. This has been another great moment in furniture history. Watch furniture history unfold at mybobs.com.
Hi there, this is Jim the Keys bartender coming to you for episode 181. We're going to call this Don't Fish, Don't Boat. I'm here with Jenna Kelly.
Hello, everyone.
I call it Don't Fish, Don't Boat because of what people ask all the time when they come in here. It's, when they find out if I'm visiting someplace else, they just have an idea what it's like, what the keys are like,
right.
And we're going to probably delve into the difference in characters of the keys and the kind of different concerns and issues people have in different areas of the keys. We have...
well, this is like locals' point of view.
Yeah, from the locals' point of view. And then obviously people have their own impressions of what it's like, what it would be like to live down here. The weird thing some people react to is when people say, "Oh, you must do a lot of fishing or boating or diving."
Right.
And I go, "Don't fish, don't boat." And then it's like that song by, is that a man?
Is it?
Adamant. Don't drink, don't smoke. What do you do? Don't drink, smoke. What do subtle? Don't fish, don't boat, don't dive. I do like swimming. I like the water. I do like the water.
Okay.
People say, and I like fish. I just don't have that affinity for going out on the water and dropping a line in there and just waiting around. I used to do it when I was younger. I used to love it. If I'm on the water, I drink. I don't want to. It's like golfing.
Yeah.
I think when I go out golfing, I'm here to hit the ball, have a couple laughs. When people get too fucking serious about the golfing, then...
See, that's right, because a lot of people go out golfing just so they can, drink and have the, golf cart, play around in the golf cart, drive around the golf cart.
Yeah, I used to get in trouble, jousting and shit like that.
And then there's,
with
the mobile golf cart bartender.
That's awesome, too.
Flies around, chases you down, and makes your drinks free. A lot of people just love golfing because of the atmosphere.
Yeah, I'm always fucking around when I'm on a golf course. Right. But then there's people that get real serious about it. And just like when you're fishing, I just want to drink. I don't want to, have to watch someone's line or do anything. I'm just there watching. I'm watching the water. I enjoy it. I enjoy. Just because I don't fish or boat or dive doesn't mean I don't enjoy. Because I've been on a hookah dive where you use the hookah.
I have one in the shed.
Or no, with a hooker.
A hookah.
No, I was with a hooker.
A hooker.
Yeah, no. Hookah.
Which people, of course, it's not the standard hookah that you just, fill up with your funky tobaccos and sit in your living room and smoke it. Instead of having
compressed
a dive tank
right?
on your back,
yeah,
like most scuba divers that you would see in the images, photos, videos, you leave your tanks on the boat and you have a very, very long line.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about decompression or stuff like that.
No, you would never hookah that deep.
Yeah.
Hookah is great for lobstering.
No, it's great. Yeah. Well, especially here where you have it near coastal waters here. Most of the places are no more than 8 feet deep, 12 feet deep.
You can safely hookah, probably to 20, 25 feet if you wanted to.
Yeah, and they did it. The sponge guys always did that, and all. Yeah. That's what they used instead of dealing with tanks, and it's easier. And they even have backup. The backups, they had a hand. You could actually compress air for someone. The old style was.
Oh yeah, they used
to crank it.
even.
They used to hand crank it
Yeah.
before they had that, and you had to. You didn't have to really. If it started running out, you just popped up, and you only had at most you
You're
were
not
down
that
20
deep.
feet.
Yeah.
So I don't get me wrong. I do love being. I do like getting on a boat. I could never imagine, unless there was a time I could just buy a boat, and it's getting that chapter is closing. Unless something drastically happens here where I could just get a boat, have someone take care of it, and take it out. Even then, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to be the guy that grounds the boat. But you know what? I am the guy. All you do, tell me where the channel markers are, where I have to stay on the channel markers, and I'll be fine. I can read charts and stuff like that. I'll pay attention to the tides and all that stuff. And yeah, it's not. But some people just seem. When I lived on moved down here 12 years ago, there was a guy. He acted like he had a trawler, and he acted like he knew all this shit about diving and fishing. And I remember a couple months after being down here, I noticed boat was gone. And I seen him at the Pilot House bar, because I was staying at the Pilot House Marina here in Key Largo. And I said, "What's going on?" And he goes, "Oh, me and the wife and some friends were out, and we hit a rock." I said, "A rock? That's a navigation? It's near channel?" And so, "Well, we misread." And I go, You said you know all this stuff here, and he took his keel out when he
hit
which
the
is
rock.
easy to do, yeah.
Well, now I own a trawler,
Mm-hmm.
so I will tell you that it doesn't have the same kind of keel that a sailboat does, where it sticks way down deep. It just looks like a regular V-bottom boat,
Mm-hmm.
but the keel line is concrete filled, and there are some that are lead filled. So and it's just because trawlers are like big. They kind of look like. Technically they're a yacht.
Yeah.
But it just looks like a really big cabin boat. Not a houseboat, but a cabin boat.
Yeah.
And if you were to try to pass a trawler over our reef line, you would really have to know how to read your GPS properly and know those reefs. Because the coral heads, some of them are...
Well, this is when he was coming in.
Right.
This is when he was coming in,
Into
coming
the
out.
channel?
Coming out, or you know what I mean, coming out into the coming into the reef area or something. He wasn't even going. He was. They weren't going to go to the reef. They were going to go outside to go fishing.
Okay.
Outside the reef, and they didn't make it much farther because it's near. Where's the canal that comes out near? Is that Port Largo?
Well, Port Largo, it has
The canal.
It does have no. I mean, if you are on that, there's no cut from one side to the other.
No, not the cut. They came out of Pilot House.
So if you go out of Pilot House, yes, you're going to be near Port Largo.
Port Largo, and
Yep.
they came out there, and there's a rock out there.
There's multiple rocks out there.
Well, I mean, the big one, I guess.
right
They
at
hit
the inlet.
Yep,
Yep.
right at the inlet.
Yep.
And that's where he hit it. And then I'm looking and I go, if I ever made mistakes in my life, if you ever made a stupid mistake, like drive too close to a gas pump and hit your mirror or scraped, if you ever make mistakes, or you're a person, and everyone makes a mistake, you figure you keep your mouth shut. But something about boat captains, they just love to brag about how great a captains some of them are. I mean, there's one guy who was working for a friend of ours who does the leisure area, pool area. There's one guy this guy you're not talking to currently, but he worked for him and he was a boat captain. He's not a boat captain. I imagine he did something that he lost his license maybe.
Okay.
But he used to talk all the time about surfing a boat back on a wave. And he said how expert he was at doing this.
Yeah.
And how great. But what screwed up was that he was surfing his car under the influence of 12 bottles of beer and a couple of bourbons, and a police officer caught him on that wave. And now he lost the ability to surf boats.
Right.
Back in. Just that was I guess it's a thing they do to show off. I mean, I see a lot of safe boaters. I see them when they slow down. They go to the idle speeds. They're supposed to so you don't cause a wake.
Absolutely.
And you would know that if you watch Caddyshack. Right?
I totally did watch Caddyshack.
Caddyshack, yes. We'll read that in the next episode. We'll have a dedication, maybe.
We need
I
to.
want to read that. I want to read that when we get on the trawler and do our first episode.
Right. And I actually need to watch the movie first because I think I've seen it. I remember the gopher things,
Yeah.
but I think I was really little.
So what was the point I was on?
Well,
talking about?
you were talking about the boat captains and how it's surprising.
How so good some of them are knowing what to do when they're safe, and there's just so many of them. When you go out, they don't screw around. They do.
Right.
Everything's by the book, and they do it. Always admirable. Taking responsibility for your charges, which is the people on your boat, and then every so often, I was at the Mandalay when it was still open before Irma.
Yep.
Having a beer, and some guy comes in on, it's got to be close to 50-foot boat coming in big, right into the next to the Mandalay. What's the name of the condos there? The condos right
condos
south
there.
of it. You know
Okay.
that condo thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shoot. I don't know
I forgot the
name.
name. I used to do a lot of business in there with when they rented babies. And the guy came in. He was doing 25 knots within 50 yards coming in.
Wow, that's a
yeah,
big
I know.
thing.
And there was and he cut the engines maybe about 25, 30 yards out, and they slow down pretty quick.
Yeah.
Especially when he's up on plane and then when it drops down. But
But
I
the
mean,
wake that they leave is insane.
it was
Yeah.
crazy coming in, and he just kind of, I guess it's impressive him knowing it, but what really people stood out is that everyone just they forgot about his expertise, and they thought, wow,
What an asshole.
you're a dick. Yeah,
Yep.
you're a fucking dick for doing stuff
Absolutely,
like that.
because so many people here, we boat everywhere.
Yeah.
Like I have one boat right here, saving the water. And I'll take that boat to go to dinner or go wherever, visit friends, other people that live on the water. And if someone were to fly through this canal with a wake, it's going to smash all of our boats up against the dock.
Yeah, and,
Horrendous.
no matter if you
There's
got your
no-
bumpers there and all
There's
that
no
stuff.
need for that. There's no need.
No,
for
no,
that.
even that.
It's disrespectful.
Yeah, it's wrong to do that. And if someone was boarding, it's a safety issue. If someone's doing something to their boat,
Right.
if let's say they're painting, let's say they're doing something and they're in between the boat and the dock.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, typically you would never put yourself in that situation.
No.
yeah.
But normally you got to prepare for almost any situation, right?
You have to just. I mean, if it's an idle no wake zone, you have an idle no wake.
It's there for a reason. It's for not
Exactly. It's not.
damaging the
people just-
boats, the lines, and stuff like that. It's a safe harbor. You have it. You have it in here. You got your boat tied up. You don't have to worry about anything going on. I mean,
Now I'm a massive boating household, and I'm a boat dealer, so I deal with boats,
yeah.
jet skis every day, all
Yeah.
day long. And this is when we're looking at my husband's Pursuit, which is sitting in the water right next to us in the
Yeah.
canal. But we also have a 17-foot boat, which is out front on the trailer, and then we also have a 36-foot trailer,
Yeah.
which is the yacht, which is out.
A 3-boat household.
We have 3 boats. Well, I jointly own the trawler with Damon. And Damon's been a frequent guest on the podcast. So Damon and I both own it, and then Damon's partner
Well,
and my husband.
I'd still
and I-
count. I don't care if you had it with 3 people. It's still a 3-boat household.
But it's-
you have
yeah.
access to 3 boats.
We have 3 boats. So
Yeah.
and they have 3 boats.
Yeah.
So therefore,
Holy shit.
between the 2 households, we have 5 boats total.
So if I'm
technically.
sitting with you guys, it's that between all these 3 households, there's 5 boats.
2 households,
There's-
5 boats.
And it's
Yes.
no 3. I mean, 3 of us.
3
households, 5 boats, and one of them has no boats, which I'm perfectly fine with that.
I could take you out for a boat ride if you want.
Oh, I love going out. I do love going out. But I really like to dick around, just drink, and when I'm out on there, and just and
be
at the end,
cool.
at the end, I do like to help clean up and do that stuff, and provide gas, obviously, and bring beer and do all that stuff. But I'm usually really not helpful and stuff like that with it. And I was in the during college in the Naval Reserve, right? And then we had to do sail training. We had to do all the knot tying and stuff. With my left-right confusion, I suck at knot tying. and tying off. I do. I guess it's a form of dyslexia, or maybe I am learning disabled some way. But yeah,
Can you write with your left hand, or I'm sorry, with your right hand at all?
Yeah, I can write. I can write with my right
both
hand.
Hands.
Well, it looks like a 6-year-old's writing when I write.
I was going to say, because I can write with either hand.
No, I can't.
So,
I can't.
so
I can.
have a
I'm
problem, too,
pretty
with the left and the
ambidextrous
right.
when it comes to things like when I'm playing tennis. I can throw a racket to my right hand and do things and catch things really well with my right hand. But I've never I never had a problem with my left, so I always favored my left.
Of course, Jim is a left-handed person.
Yes.
Typically, so I usually write with my right hand. But if I play tennis, I can do either.
Yeah.
If I golf, I'm left-handed. I can bat left or right.
Well,
So
I
it's
can
really
bat
odd.
left or right,
So
but
it's
I mean, I'm
switching.
bad left or right too, so it doesn't really matter. Actually, I've gotten better because of focus.
See, if
I
you
did
were-
some at one time. I took, I had to take for my job. I was taking this thing called Mode Alert, and it's not speed, it's not addictive, but what it does
Caffeine,
is
probably.
what?
Caffeine, probably.
No, caffeine. This is what's better than caffeine. This does focus.
Ah.
This does focus, and
So
once you
it's
get
like an
focused,
Adderall or something.
yeah. Well, once I got something like that, holy crap! I was like, have you ever seen the movie Charlie? There was a guy who was mentally handicapped, and he gave his
No.
medicine. He turned into a genius. Once I had one of those things, my skill level went in almost all things: shooting, tennis, pool, went way up. There's so many things that happen, but we're still we do stray, and if you do listen to the show, we do stray from the subjects a lot, which is not a crime. So we got through the boating part.
Although I would like to bring up that if
Right.
you were a little bit more maritime savvy, you wouldn't have a problem with your left and right because you would call it port and starboard, and that's what solved my problem.
I'm pretty good with that.
That's all I think about.
Because
People
port,
say-
I just laughed at port. Starboard's the longer one, right? And right is it spelled more difficult. You have to think more for starboard.
Well, here's the thing: left is 4 letters, and
Yeah,
port
port.
is 4 letters.
Oh yeah, this is
So
right.
therefore-
And left is my favorite one.
Right. So, of
Favorite
course,
one
because
is always
you're
that.
left.
Marching was a fucking nightmare for me. Left, right. I'm like, oh, what? I mean, your dominant side. I said, not dominant side, you motherfucker. You know, but
You'll actually notice too. Well, not lately because it's been light out when you.
if
get
I was
here.
if I was in gunnery, I would probably sank a bunch of ships.
Do you realize that I have port and starboard lights in the front of my house?
No, I did not know.
So when you leave tonight, you'll have
Oh,
to
the colors. Oh,
Here, I have the red
The
light
colors
and the
in
green
it,
light
yes.
for the port and starboard when you pull into the house. So it's just, but then again, I am married to a master captain,
yeah.
so he is.
I think that's. I remember I used a Loran. We tried to do a little sexton with that. Not sexting.
Sextant.
Sextant.
Yes.
But Loran was long range radio navigating where you get coordinates and you would plot them on a map, and every 20 minutes when you're sailing,
Yes.
you would just track your course, and then you could get, you'd be. It's pretty good with a couple hundred meters, which is good.
Yeah.
And then when you get within wherever your destination is, you're going to get navigational buoys and all that stuff. Where you're going to.
See, I like I have a friend Casey.
Yeah.
And he is a professional sailor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people hire him. He goes all. He just spent 5 months, I believe, in Belize,
Yeah.
working directly for
Unbelievable.
a very
That's
wealthy
cheesy.
person
Yeah.
who has him captain his vessel. Like, so a lot of the real big sailboats, real expensive ones. I noticed the people these and it's the same thing for the big yachts.
They do
people
that.
own
When I
them-
was in
people that own them.
when
don't
I did
drive
my
them.
sail training, there was a guy, a wealthy businessman from Chicago. When we were up in Newport, Rhode Island, there was this. I guess it was 100-foot yacht, motor yacht,
Yeah.
and he had a captain, first mate,
Absolutely.
a cook, and a steward.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's normally like boyfriend girlfriend thing, the way they pair up. Like the first mate's girlfriend's the steward, and the captain's girlfriend could be the cook
Right.
and all that stuff,
Yeah.
or something like that, whatever. And they go and take it around, and they handle all that stuff,
Yeah.
and
But
they bring
basically
in.
go and they live on these
And they bring
yachts.
a couple other people, crewmen on there for
Yeah. And depending on the size of the ship, depends on how many mates you actually are required to have, because you have to be able to dock them safely.
Yeah.
So you have to have enough people.
Yeah, I think for 100 foot you need to have at least 6.
I believe you have to have, for mates, I believe you have to have 2 for 100 foot.
Well, I mean, really? Just
I
2?
believe so, because you have to have one for
it?
For the bow and the stern.
That's all you needed?
I believe so.
Okay.
That's what's required.
Okay, I thought.
A mate is somebody who's helping you operate the vessel, not somebody.
No, I know, but I know that someone who's access to steward can do something like that too. They can jump over and send they can send out a spring line to them and stuff like that. You train them to do that.
You have to. There are so many different requirements, and a lot of those captains used to be mates.
Yeah.
Because you have to have a certain amount of time on the water, accredited time on the water, and the owner of the vessel or the captain of the vessel has to sign off on your hours.
Yeah.
So that's what my husband has had to do, because he was a mate for years on a parasail boat. But then when he went through the steps to get his actual U.S. Coast Guard accredited captain's license, which is cool, it looks like a passport.
Yep.
He had to have all kinds of sea time signed off on for other different captains. And they even have those captains, you have to record their U.S. Coast Guard number to prove that you were on a boat with an accredited captain.
Yeah, you got to log that stuff. I know
do.
that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just like flying.
Yeah, it's cool though. It's
They're
really
flying.
interesting.
I mean, I guess if you're the guy that makes the coffee, you're the coffee mate.
Yeah. But see, now I am not an accredited
You didn't like
captain.
that one, coffee mate? That's a non-dairy creamer. I just plugged that one.
Maybe
I'm
the
sorry,
powder.
Christy, if you get this one. It's not one of the people, not one of the products we endorse, and it is lame. But no one's going to be offended by it. That's not a good thing. No one can be. Well, maybe it could be somebody. I'm the guy that's in charge of coffee on a boat. I don't want to be called the coffee mate.
I'm going to call Papa the coffee mate.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So since we're on this, and I don't make the ham-handed change, but we are going to do it. So the reasons why I'm not a boat or a fisher. I know the other thing with fishing, I don't feel. I feel I'm inconveniencing the goddamn fish by pulling them out. Like people say, oh, they fucking enjoy it. Yeah, being pulled out, yanked out of it. Imagine if you're a person and you got yanked well, not just out of your environment and pulled into some conveyance.
With a hook in your face.
Yeah, and then they got to you're startled and you got to take it out and you throw them back in. You're in shock for a while and stuff like that. So I don't get sport fishing and stuff like that. It's kind of for me, and I'm pissing off. I know demographically, there's fishing shows. We're not a fucking fishing show.
We are not.
We're not a fishing show. We'll have people on there. I have friends that are fishermen and stuff like that, and I do understand that. The way these differences we have are the variety of life. That's
you know
just
what I
makes
can
it.
do is I could talk to my really good friends George and Lane. So anybody out there that is interested in fishing shows, if you ever watch the Discovery Channel, Fish Guys.
Well, they got on the network we're going to be on. We're on Keys 43. There's a couple. There's at least one fishing show, and there's they do a production for a video one too, a fishing show.
Cool.
Based out of Amarada, Fish Guys, and it's beautiful.
Well,
a beautiful show.
Fish Guys is based out of here, and that would be Lane Goodwin and George Clark. So they're on the Discovery Channel on Saturday mornings.
Oh yeah. It's in Jeremy. Guy Jeremy's on there too.
Jeremy isn't on Fish Guys.
Okay.
But it's Fish Guys with a Z. It's like I said on Discovery Channel.
Okay.
They're sponsored by Wellcraft, which of course I'm the Wellcraft dealer. We're the supplying dealer for their boats. So they use our boats when they do their recordings, their shows, and we give them all kinds of good deals as much as we possibly can. But
I'd be willing to learn more about boats if Wellcraft would like to throw us some.
Do you remember when Lissa was on and talked about washing the guinea pig?
I thought when she started, and the first time when she talked about washing the guinea pig,
yes,
I thought she was talking about washing her lady parts.
No, well, it was actually.
And she used the vagina soap.
Her daughter used the vagina soap to wash the guinea pig.
Yeah.
That was Lane Goodwin's guinea pig.
Oh, okay.
Because his wife and his family were out of town, Lissa and her daughter were pig sitting, and before they returned
so we got
the pig,
a fresh smelling vagina.
So he had a fresh smelling guinea pig that smelled like a fresh smelling vagina when he returned home from his vacation. But these are the people. So if you ever did one,
that's Key Largo.
This is Key Largo. This is
So the nature of So we're the segue. This perfect. The segueing that we're going into. We're talking about Key Largo. You've heard us talk about Key Largo so much about the things that happen: diving, fishing. Diving is really good because of all the reefs we have here.
Yes.
I mean, fishing's great too.
We have the third largest barrier reef in the world.
Yes.
Which is depending on where you are down the Keys, is between 2.5 to 3.5 miles offshore. And basically, it's called a patch reef. It's not like it's just one big long line of rocks. Just like the Keys are not just one big long line of rocks, because we're an archipelago, which means hundreds of millions of years ago we used to be a patch reef ourselves. So therefore, we have a string of islands, which is turned into 43 different keys. So when you're out on the reef fishing,
yes,
which is the current live reef, there's patch reefs, which have coral heads that stick out. Those are the things that people will hit. They have to know where the passageways are through those reef heads before they can go outside the reef to go offshore fishing for dolphin, marlin, swordfish, things like that, right? But when you're inside the reef, you don't have the reef acts like a wave break. That's why we have no beaches in the Keys. The only place we have beaches is where there is a break in the patch reef, like
Sombrero Beach,
Cocoa Beach, all the way down, and then of course you get to Key West, and they have oh gosh, what is that one called? Harriet. Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. But Key West has a beach as well.
Yeah.
So we have very little beaches because beaches are created by surf. We don't have any surf, or very, very little, because we have...
When we do have surf, that something's going down really big.
Well, if we have surf, it's a hurricane. Yeah. Because it takes that much to put the water over the top of the reef heads. But, as you were talking about navigation before, if they don't know where those coral heads start and stop, that person should not be trying to pass over the reef. That is why we have lighthouses.
Yes.
Because, of course, back before we had Garmin and GPS, those sailors could not tell where those coral heads were, and they would run into them. So we have Carey's Fort Reef.
Yeah.
Lighthouse, Reef Lighthouse. We have Alligator Reef Lighthouse. We have the Key West Lighthouse. So those are all set out on the reef line to warn.
There were scavengers. People actually, their business was they moved the lights and the signals, so freighters would come across the reef.
They would come out with lighthouse ships.
Yeah.
And they would mask themselves up as a lighthouse and guide the ships into runaground.
Yeah.
So that they would, of course, pilfer and plunder.
Yeah. And that was the thing they did until probably the mid 1800s. So the U.S. government had and then so after, I guess, right around the Civil War, there was a heavy presence down there. You couldn't fuck around then because the United States Navy was down here and they didn't let that shit go on.
Well, it's a very long chain of islands.
I know, but they were around. They were around. I mean, to do it regularly, I think because of the presence they had here. Because you got to think the Civil War, how big the Civil War was, and the North, the Union established themselves in Key West, big time, and the heavy presence. There was a blockade of almost all the southern states. They had blockade runners. That's what Rhett Butler was in Gone with the Wind. He was a blockade runner. But there were smaller ships, fast ships that could get in there and stuff like that. But with these down in the Keys prior to the Civil War, there was all that shit going on because it was. You know what? If you have a limited ability to some people found they could fish. Fishing was hard back in the 1800s because you had to get fish, you had to salt it down because you didn't have the cooling systems to be able to keep fish. So all fish had to be salted down. That was it. That was it.
Yep.
I mean, there could have been other processes I'm not familiar about, but there was virtually no coolant system. So in order to get something to market, and your market was inland a lot of times. Because you could, and if you were near a big city, yes, there's enough people to eat fish there. But if you really wanted to, you get the fish inland, that salted cod and things like that up actually to made New England. That was a staple. So down here, when you had another opportunity, and which was building a lighthouse on a ship, and then just getting a freighter and just coming and scavenging. Well, they made a movie about it called Shipping News. Did you ever see that?
There's many people that actually just moved to the Keys and this is back before the railroad was put up. Flagler's Railroad was, I believe, its maiden voyage on the railroad was 1912. The first trip.
Close.
To the US.
Yep.
And
I read that book. There's a book. There's a book called "Last Train to Paradise" or something.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's about the development of Flagler Railroad, and it ends with the Labor Day hurricane
Well,
of
that was 1935.
35, yeah.
Right. So that was actually when the railroad.
It ends at that.
Was destroyed,
was torn up,
but it didn't start operating until 1912. So from 1912 to 1935, it's not a huge amount of time. But
with Key West was the largest city in Florida.
Yes.
Until 35, I think, until 35, 40.
Because of that railroad, it brought industry, it brought everything. It was amazing.
It was big. Actually, it was big before the railroad came.
It was big before that, but it was only available to get to via ferry or ship.
Exactly.
So,
yes.
And then they had to dredge out so much harbor to be able to get the ships in.
Oh.
Because this is old. What we stand on right now, the rocks that are under us, are pieces of coral from millions of years ago.
I mean, I could not fucking understand how they got that, how they cleared that.
They had to use dynamite, drilling and dynamite.
I mean,
I actually read about it. There was like 15 or 19 deaths, I believe, just from dynamiting and drilling the holes to actually break up the coral head rock that we live on, that we're on right now, so that they could lay the railroad tracks. Because they can't. If they're going to go do any incline or decline or any kind of variation, you have to get them as slight as possible for incline decline, which we don't have. I mean, we're pretty flat for the most part. But if you're going to deal
like a ballet dancer, I don't know why I get that. At least I didn't say a young girl or something like that.
Well, think about it, like a railroad, a piece of railroad. Like the actual
a rail, one like the rail tie.
They don't bend.
No.
So the only variation you have is at the seam to the next one, and it can only be ever so slight so that it doesn't derail. So they had to try to make everything as flat as possible.
Well, they did heat rails.
They did, but you have to keep them
it
equidistant on each side so that you don't tip over.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a bunch of cool shit that I read about it, but Flagler was amazing. He came up with
the concrete they used that would cure in salt water was amazing. And there's still, if you do come down to Keys and you drive down and you get down to near Marathon, you'll start seeing the remnants of the Flagler Railroad. And it's amazing. It's still standing.
You'll see the remnants of it as soon as.
And it probably would have been intact if it was in use, because they could have kept on repairing it and stuff like that. They could have.
Yeah, I mean all of.
I don't know. I'm not. Wait, I guess I shouldn't speculate that way.
All of the bulkheads are still in place.
Yeah. So when they develop, when it's funny they said to the nature of it when we start talking about the difference between. Key Largo and Key West.
All the way to Key West.
When it started up here, there was just a little post office up here.
Yes.
There was just a small fishing village. Small. When I say small, it was probably less than 200 people, maybe.
Yeah, and in order just to get to Key Largo from the mainland, that was also a very big feat, because now we have the 18-mile stretch.
Yes.
But you have to think about how far 18 miles was when you had horse and buggy.
Yeah.
And you couldn't pass through at certain times of year, and you couldn't pass through areas at high tide. And it was basically marshland.
They couldn't build up the roadway or anything like that. They have that engineering capability. So you have this small fishing village, and for some reason, Key West developed right down there which was kind of amazing, because there's very little fresh water, and they work off a cistern system down in Key West.
They did.
And if you go to the big hotel, that really nice hotel down there, old hotel.
Southernmost, right?
No, the older one. The one that's, God, it's super big. Not the southernmost. It's an old one.
You're talking about the one that's on Roosevelt, on the other side.
No. It's right down there. There's ones called, Christ, the brain fart in that stuff. But it was 40s, but right under, it was developed in 30s and 40s, but right underneath it, there's a big cistern. They have fish in there and stuff like that. It's really pretty amazing. You look down underneath it, and they got these huge pools behind there, huge swimming pools. And Abby and I stayed at the sister hotel called the forget the name of that too.
See, I
God
should've
damn it,
grabbed my
being
iPad.
old.
You said, nah, we'll wing it.
We don't need it. We'll wing it on that. We'll wing it because the difference between Key West had a much more cosmopolitan vibe years before.
But you know
the rest of
why.
it was the rest of the Keys was desolate. They had you had Key Largo, a small village, and then Almirada. I think Tavernier probably had
Well,
maybe
Islamorada
100.
actually, the definition means the village of islands.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Almirada had settlements there, and then Marathon, Indian Key. As you go down, was the one place.
Indian?
It's the only place where Native Americans used artillery on U.S. forces.
Yeah, they took them out.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I mean, that talk about if I was an Indian, if I was a Native American, and these people coming to take my land, it's just like, God damn it, get those guns, we'll fire back at them.
Right.
Instead of like trying to fire arrows at them.
Well,
That's the first thing you have to do,
They
right?
pretty much took them all out. There wasn't very many survivors on Indian Key after that.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
But now they're doing a walking tour. Did you know that? It's pretty cool.
hmm
You can do like a walking app tour, and they walk around and show you.
well, I mean, that's the nature of it. Almost any
They
there was
still have
no
the cisterns.
there was no Native
still
American
there.
there's no Native American settlement that withheld against the incursions of white settlers. There's not. I
that
mean,
needed
if you
withhold.
name one,
They tried.
it'd be the first one. It would be the first one I know about
Right. Yeah. I mean,
here
well, they
in
tried, but
North
they
America.
didn't.
And I'm not saying it's kudos for the white settlers.
it's terrible.
I'm just saying, well, and as I
even-
said, psychologically wise, whenever any group gets the upper hand,
Right.
it would definitely tend to dominate another one. That's just what they
So,
did. That's just what they
Those were
did.
the Seminole Indians.
I thought they were Calusa. They're the
Those
same
were- I
thing.
believe those were the Seminole Indians.
I think they got grouped differently, and they started calling
Well,
different
they may have since then, because you also have.
because they were rather segmented. What happens when they get separated by islands and things like that? They develop different traditions, and that like the Seminoles that wouldn't come down here sometimes, or
I believe
I
the
thought they were the
attack-
Calusa.
believe
I thought they were the Calusa.
the attack was by the Seminoles. I'll have to look it up. But
Okay.
Calusa,
I remember in
Seminole-
Revenge of the Nerds 2, the Seminoles in Revenge of the Nerds 2, remember that? You never saw? Is that way before your time too?
No, I just yeah.
Remember that? Where they
Yeah,
did
that's
the fraternity came up with their own Indian thing and they got the Tri-Lambs into
Oh, goodness.
a pickle?
because
no.
they decided to be Indians somehow. I don't know. I don't.
Well, the bullies.
Oh, okay.
The bullies set up a thing where they were trying to intimidate
Now,
them.
I
think they
believe-
did a Seminole thing, but it was on the mainland now.
I believe the Seminoles and the Calusa were both technically part of the Miccosukee, but because of the areas that they chose to settle
Yeah.
and the distance and how much time
Yeah.
people developed different. But I believe that's kind of how that is. But
I would definitely like to establish at one point if there was a, like what group was here.
right.
But I want to get back on to this thing because we got about 8 minutes left. I think
Well,
we're going to
I
make it
wanted
part
to
1 and 2
talk
about the changing nature
changing
when you
nature.
go down from the
So
Keys.
modern day, right?
Well, that's not that segue. Let's start in the beginning, and then we can always bring it in, and we can segue into the next episode.
Okay.
So Flagler, the railroad started. They went
19
down the east coast of Florida,
Yes.
and down to Miami. And Miami grew directly from the railhead that Flagler's to building the Key West
Absolutely.
one. And it was supposed to Key West. The goal was to make Key West the number one trading point in the United States for South America.
Do you know why? Because on the coast of Key West,
Yeah.
right? So 3 miles outside of Key West,
Yeah.
before you hit the dry Tortugas,
Yeah.
which is actually closer, right? Like it was 70 miles,
Yeah.
90 miles, 70 miles from Key West.
Yeah.
That is where the Florida Straits run through. So you get back to deep water travel, harbor, tides, and it hauls those boats through there like super fast. So anybody coming from South America, anybody, Europeans, all those boats, their goal was to follow the Keys down, get to Key West, and hit the Florida Straits to come up into the bay. That's where the Florida Straits still run. That's where the active water still runs. So it's all deep.
From what I understand, that may be
the shipping point.
Actually,
it's a stopping point, shipping point, and you can continue on.
What's that current called? The Gulf Stream. The Gulf Stream has we'll get into discussion some other time that the nature of the Gulf Stream has changed recently because of changing temperatures and the freshwater composition. Intrusion into it.
Yeah.
So Key West, as a part of the Keys, if you see advertisements, you'll see the Florida Keys and Key West, or is it Key West and the Florida Keys?
No, they usually say the Florida Keys and Key West.
Okay, because Key West is the jewel in the crown. I understand that. I'm not.
Right.
Hey, it's the biggest city.
For trade, absolutely.
And for trade and the amount of people that come there, they have an airport there and all that stuff.
They do.
And like if in present, but if you go down there, we're almost finishing up. We're not even getting. We're just kind of in the beginning.
All that.
We just kicked it. Well, we'll save it for the second half of the next show.
We're gonna have
second show, and we'll open up
3 shows today, Jim. We have a lot to talk about.
Okay, you're right. Okay,
we do. And if we flew through this one this quick, we'll probably flew through
Okay, yeah, anyway, it is 40 minutes in it.
This is all like us being nerds.
Okay, so go into the beginning of it. So you're at Key Largo. Seminal events. We had the Labor Day hurricane where how many 3,000 people died?
Yes, well, and many of them.
It's the only one. It was superseded by Katrina, obviously, but the Galveston hurricane that was. Maybe a little before that. It was It was in the teens. The Galveston hurricane was huge.
I believe after 1935 Labor Day hurricane, they started actually giving them names.
Yeah, I mean, but imagine from what I heard about let's say the Galveston hurricane and stuff like that, pre-satellites, obviously 35.
Right.
The Nazis weren't even sending rockets up and stuff like that.
Not yet.
The Russians sent Sputnik up in 1956 maybe or something like that. 57, and we had when a hurricane or a disturbance would occur, they had to solely depend on the change in the barometer.
Temperature, birds, fish, and barometer.
Yeah, and they had very limited. Can I grab one of these? Mm-hmm. This is good.
Right?
Yes. So. Imagine this nowadays where you can't see what's coming up, and that all of a sudden I think the fish is over. Oh, you got one. Oh, you got a bottle opener over there. Oh, that's nice. Sweet. Do you see? Someone has a bottle opener mounted on their.
My friend David gave me that for my birthday or Christmas or something a few years ago.
That's a thoughtful gift.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
I gave
bottle opener mounted to the side of the tiki pole. And it actually has a little catch basin for all the caps that you drop. But I always drop them on the ground and pick them up anyway.
But I imagine the Keys aren't any different than someplace in the mountains when it comes to hurricanes or blizzards or tornadoes.
Yeah. Oh.
Tornadoes. Well, I mean, there's been 500. As of now, maybe 1,000 tornadoes. And
they're just so unpredictable. I mean, you can tell.
No, but it was the most active tornado so far for the amount of time, unless it drops significantly. Right. The flooding and the tornadoes have been very active. I will not debate because we're not the venue for that, for science and stuff like that.
Can you smell rain before it comes? I can smell a tornado.
I can smell an unclean woman.
I'm just saying.
No.
Because I'm from the Midwest. So, you can tell. You look at the sky, you look at the tops of the trees. If everything stops moving,
I used to be able to for rain, but down here, like today, if you noticed, the clouds would start rolling in and the humidity rise and it starts spritzing a little.
Yep.
Nothing comes out. It's the weird thing about the Keys is that you can see a whole. We mentioned on other whole line, especially in the northern part of the Keys, where you look over the Everglades and there could be a whole line of dark clouds and they don't make it down here.
Well, you know why?
Because of the water. The water creates the lack of the heat
It's
sink.
the lack of land.
Yeah, the
is
lack
what
of
it
the
is.
heat sink.
It's the lack
where
of
the land creates.
Like if you ever, so think about next time you're ever on an airplane and you're flying over the ocean and you're coming into San Diego and then all of a sudden you see clouds all over San Diego. Or next time you come into the Keys, you'll see that all of a sudden there's clouds when you come over, or when you fly into Miami. As soon as you get to the coastline, you'll start to see clouds. The clouds will hover over land.
Yeah.
And we have so little land that they tend to just kind of break up and fly around real quick. So if we get little storms, or we'll get sun showers.
Yeah.
We'll do a little shower, and then it's done in 5 minutes.
When it's a big system, though,
Well, yeah, then
when it's a big system, that's when you see it on the ocean and stuff like that. It's usually a big storm coming through.
Well, of
you
course.
can't do anything about it. But yes, that's what
But your
actually happening. It
standard
forms over land.
precipitation. See, I should get my friend Katie. She's a meteorologist.
She is?
Yeah.
You know, the shame about it, being a meteorologist, she wouldn't be able to stand there and just like point things out. Like over here, coming from the west, we have this and that, and so and so. And how is she built?
What's that?
Well, because he's a meteorologist, don't
She's
they?
a very tall girl. She's beautiful, though. Absolutely gorgeous.
Okay.
Well, of course, listen to me.
You got to
'cause
bring
I'm-
her on.
I'm 4'11". Well, she lives in Minneapolis. I'll have to fly
Bring her
her
down.
down. We'll get Sniper.
Bring her down, Jen.
Bring her
Okay,
on
well,
down.
we're at 45 minutes.
We are at 45 minutes.
We're gonna end this episode. I think it was a good one. Once again, leave reviews. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that. But leave reviews on whatever venue or source
medium.
you're listening to us.
Absolutely.
Whoever's listening in Monroeville, Pennsylvania, thank you. We have that's Western Pennsylvania.
Wow, but Monroeville, that's like us. We're in Monroe. They're Monroeville.
Yeah,
We're in
Monroeville. I
Monroe
think
County.
maybe Monroe County.
So that's pretty cool.
Okay, well, say goodbye, Jenna.
Goodbye, Jenna.
This is Jim, the Keys bartender. We're going to be signing off. I'm going to put on the music right now. Bring this down.
This is Julie.
Hey, calendar, what's my morning like?
Julie's about to have a long day.
At 9 a.m., soccer carpool. 9:10, purchase birthday card. 9:05, dry cleaning.
Did you just go backwards?
I'm sorry, I can't fit that question into your schedule. 9:15, cry for a little bit.
For days that won't end, let Schwann's help. With Schwann's, you can get delicious meals that go from freezer to table in minutes, not hours. Ordered, delivered, done. That's homemade easy. Visit today at schwans.com. After a long day of being pulled in every direction, the last thing anyone wants to think about is what's for dinner. That's where Schwann's can help, with a variety of real food choices, frozen to lock in freshness. From ready-made meals, premium meats and side dishes, to vegetables, ice cream, and more. Schwann's foods go from freezer to table in minutes, not hours, so you can pull off a delicious meal in no time at all.